I'm Carol Reynolds, and I'm delighted to be with you and have as my guest tonight a favorite in the wind world, not just the Dallas wind world, but a super composer and lovely woman, Julie Giroux. And honestly, nothing could be more glorious than to think about your participation in the festive, and I mean Dallas Winds does a festive Christmas concert. It's a great Dallas tradition, and you're going to be a big part of the show this year. So welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is going to be really a mega concert. Am I right about that? Because this isn't just you have a couple pieces on the program, right?
Right, yeah, it's a pretty mega concert. I almost feel sorry for people having to listen to that much Giroux in one sitting, but it is what it is.
Yes, but you know, your pieces, and I have to say, I had heard a number of your pieces here and there. I've had the chance to speak with you before at other, in interviewing before other concerts. But to see what you've done with all of these, a Christmas arrangements, and you have a CD, you have two CDs, is that correct, of Christmas music?
Right, two or three, yeah. And then I'm making a new one in 2022, so next year, yeah. So it'll be a lot. It's more Christmas than most people can handle, yeah.
Well, I beg to disagree because I got on and was listening to clips, and I got on and it's in my shopping cart right now. And especially after I got to have the pleasure of hearing some of these clips. And you have done some wild things with
That's
traditional Christmas music.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I it's just something that uh Christmas music goes a long way back for me. And when I first started writing for film and television in 1985, I was hired by Bill Conti, the guy that wrote Rocky and Karate Kid and
Mm.
Dynasty and all those shows. Uh, he hired me to work for him, and I got very close with him. Still, I'm very close with him. And when Christmas would come around, I didn't know what all these people I was meeting and working with were millionaires. I mean, there was me, and then there was them. There was always this plateau, and there still is this plateau, right? So it's very hard to buy a gift for millionaires. It's just impossible. So I have always had a great sense of humor around Christmas music, and I've always done those type of things. I hear Christmas music in my head. I am instantly figuring out all the things that I could do with it. And so I thought, well, one year I'm just going to do this, and I did it with the 1980s synthesized sounds, which was scary in itself. And I would make a 1 hour CD every year at Christmas and hand it out to all these millionaires in the attempts of trying to make them laugh. And of course I did, and they loved it. And the following year they're like, where's my Christmas tape? And I was like, okay, or I'm really looking forward to your Christmas tape. So I did that for years. And so having to do another hour of Christmas every year that was different than the one before, it was just something I got in the habit of doing, and even I still do it. So it's just very, to me, it's a lot of fun. And Christmas music is, because America is so young, Christmas music is our folk music.
Mhm.
Any kind of music that crosses all realms of richness, all realms of music, whether it's R&B or whatever. When you have songs that cross all the charts for people, to me that becomes folk music. And so and I just think that that's why it's for us here in this country. We all know those tunes. I mean, we all know Rudolph, we all know. And you would be hard pressed outside of the Beatles and Elvis to go, we all know this song.
Right.
But we do with Christmas songs, and to me that's why it is folk music. And I think of it as that, and I like to present it in that way. But I also know that I can do all kinds of crazy things with it because everybody does know these tunes. I mean, you could do that with bolero, and there's other things that you could do it with, but not many.
Right, right.
And I have done that too. So I do that too. I mean, I just don't stop at Christmas tunes. So that is the history of it for
Oh
me.
my goodness. Yeah, that is so interesting because I always think about, I mean, I love it too. I love it too. But I'm always thinking, we're listening to it now in October. And maybe that's one of the more positive ways to look at it. We miss it because it is our, you're right, it is our best body of folk music, especially by that definition. And we just can't wait to get back to it.
Right,
So I
right.
mean, I'm feeling better about those October Christmas tunes in Home Depot now. Wait,
Well, it is, yeah, and because America right now is on this hyper political, environment that, or I should say politically incorrect environment, that we're like, oh no, you better not do this before Thanksgiving. You can't do, so. But I know I listen to them all the time. It doesn't bother me. Especially when I'm working on albums for the next year. I'm
oh
usually
yeah.
I'm doing that during the summer. So I'm always playing, it's Christmas in June, Christmas in July. It's always Christmas here.
Oh,
So,
how nice. Well,
so
let
I
me
kind
ask you, you brought up bolero. Okay, so I mean, we could talk about every one of these, but if I'm not mistaken, you're going to be talking from the stage with Jerry in what I'm sure is going to be hilarious and wonderful about these pieces. But let me ask you, okay, so you have this little drummer boy, bolero. How does that come? And were you walking down the street and you realize, wait a minute, bolero and that works together? Or was it, I wonder if I can make this work, or is it, how does this actually happen?
right. That's just something that my brain has always done. Is if I hear one song, I I in my mind I can see the rhythm of it. Not just the actual rhythm, but the musical language rhythm of it. So I can go, okay, that's 1 4 5 1 1 6 7 1, and I go, okay, oh my gosh, and then immediately my brain is going, there's so many that do that. So, but bolero, bolero for me was because, again, I was trying to make millionaires laugh. So I was like, okay, it would be so funny to start off bolero the way we all think it is, and then a saxophone coming in with the melody, which is just you're just gonna go, what? Especially if it's a bad synthesized saxophone. So yeah, that's where but I knew that drummer boy absolutely fits with bolero. Absolutely.
Well,
Uh,
it was news to me, and I can't
there's
now. Here's the
there.
problem: I can't get out of my head now.
Well, that's true. It happens to me too. Now, when I hear bolero, I'm like, oh, I'm singing. Shall I play for you? Pa-rum-pa-pa-pum. And they're da 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 da. So I mean, yes, and I mean, there's so many that I've done that with and will continue to do. And I mean, Blue Danube, there are so many Christmas tunes that fit to Blue Danube. And it's and Heart and Soul, and it's endless. And so I don't think I'll ever run out of ideas for Christmas songs. The thing is that once you make someone laugh, each time you try to make them laugh, it kind of has to be a little more extreme than the first time. So yeah, I'm almost to the point of I'm dreaming of a white trash Christmas now, because I have no idea how much further I can take this. But I just love it, and I there's just something about that makes you laugh or makes you feel joy when you hear a song that you know really well, mixed with another song that you probably know really well. I mean, mashups are, I mean, uh, there's always mashups of stuff. So, but I've been doing mashups for 30 years now, 35 years actually.
Well, let me ask you about another one. I mean, I'd like to ask you about all of them, but I know that to get that, people have to go to that concert. Yeah, and then they will get a chance. So we're not going to give too much away here, but I was really struck by your Silent Night Gotham. Is that right?
Right.
Can you? Okay, I'm not very savvy about these things. Can you help me out here a little bit?
Okay, now with that one, with Silent Night in Gotham, of course, I'm talking about Batman and the city of Gotham. And Silent Night is so sad to me. I mean, when you hear it,
Uh-huh.
it's just sad. It just has that feeling like if you're writing for a film that you go, oh, somebody's dying, let's play Silent Night. It has that feeling to me. And it always amazed me that it's in a major key. How can anything that is so sad be in a major key? And I thought, well, what happens if I put it in a minor key? How sad does it get? And it fits beautifully in a minor key. And it's so, because Gotham has always been such, not a bright shining light in Batman. Gotham has always been a dark place. And I thought, well, if people are living in a dark place, they still believe in Christmas. It's still, there's still joy, there's still hope, no matter how bad things are around you. So that's what I was thinking of when I did that arrangement of Silent Night. I was thinking, in Gotham.
Oh, interesting.
So
See, that's so interesting. People really are going to want to come and hear your comments on this concert. I'm telling you, because you can't know these things. See, and it did.
No, you can't. You can't. You can't. And you don't put that in program notes because, it's kind of like, well, who cares what they were thinking? I don't. Or the lights aren't bright enough and I don't want to read this, and the concert's going at a clip, and but it is something. I think it is fun that they're going to be able to hear us talk about them before we play them. So in a way, that is going to be interesting. But then I think on some of them, I don't think we should give anything away, so they get to get the full shock of it too. I know they've been shocked before with my Christmas and Sousa Forever. So they're already used to my sense of humor. So I think it'll be fun to do that.
Well, I don't want to give anything too much away, but you also do on this concert, there'll be a setting from the Vivaldi, the wonderful From the Seasons, that starts with that ostinato. When you take that, which is so about strings, and you turn it into wind, what happens? What considerations do you have to always think about?
Well, really what happens is I get about 2 weeks worth of hate mail. That's what happens because clarinet players they can do it, but they're not happy about going over and over and over at a recording, at a recording studio. I mean, for hours, it took us about, I don't know, it didn't take us forever. It took us about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get that in the can when we were recording it for the album. And I mean, they couldn't even talk at the end of it. Their tongues were just so tired. And I felt bad, but as a composer, you really only feel bad for a few seconds, and then you go, well, sorry, not sorry. So, but it's not a Christmas tune, but it is winter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I just think it's a nice mix with Christmas music to hear that, that piece being played. I think it's very cool.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's almost like being able to rethink the piece. For me, when I listened to it, I thought, she's not really going to do that, is she? And then I listened to it and I went, she did it. And it was so, I don't know, it was dynamic. It had a whole different kind of flavor. I really, really liked it. I'm sorry the players are suffering. That makes me a little sad.
Sorry, not sorry.
For a minute and a half, maybe, right?
Sorry, not sorry. I think, it's just a beautiful tune. I mean, it's a great, Four Seasons. Who doesn't like that? And, yes, and it is just winds. I mean, it's just the woodwinds. So there are no brass. It's just woodwinds. Yes. And I mean, playing that on the trumpet is one thing, but doing it on the clarinet is another. And then of course the flute solo that takes place in there, because that's the violin solo. No, he doesn't have to breathe, right? He can just do that all day long. Well, a flute cannot. And so I had to use 2 flute players so that they could dovetail each other and get through. So the first flute plays for a while, the second flute plays for a short thing, and then the first player comes back in. But yeah, and at first I thought, I don't know how this is going to work. But when I heard them playing it, I thought, it sounds as good as when the violin does it. it's just,
It's
it's a
wonderful.
beautiful.
It
So,
is. And it
yeah.
really, I thought, if a violinist heard that, they might get a little jealous, actually.
Well, it's it's fun. It's fun. It's a good arrangement.
Julie, you've had such an amazing career. It has to have inspired not just so many people, but so many young women too. And then I think back at your background, trying to imagine you at 18 or in the band in college. How much of this could you have even envisioned? How often do you think about yourself in a practice room at LSU, or am I right? I mean, how often do you think about all of that?
Um, I do think about it, but I think about it in a different way. I always, I try to be a better person today than I was yesterday. So of course I look back in there and go, I wish I had done more of this. So, but I absolutely think about as a whole my band experience al- almost every day probably because I'm just so grateful that there was a band for me to be in, that there was a college scholarship for me because my family couldn't have afforded for me to go to college. So,
Yeah.
and in fact, me and my brother were the first ones in our family to go to college.
Yeah.
And of course, now, I have a nephew that's a doctor. I have a niece. I mean, it opens the way. And it would have never happened to me if it hadn't been for band. I wouldn't have the career I've had. I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now
Right.
if there hadn't have been a seventh grade band director that I fell in love with, you know,
Yeah.
and music. And we moved around a lot. So it was it was definitely my companion. It was the constant. Music and my brother were the constant in my life. So uh yeah, I am so very grateful, and I try to give back to bands as much as I can in every way that I can because of that.
Oh, well, it shows in your music. It shows in everything you've done. The times I've been privileged to speak with you and to hear your music from the stage. And this concert and the tradition in Dallas, I'm very close to Christmas Eve also. So it's going to be intense, and the Meyerson will be gorgeous, and people will be filled with, as you said, joy.
Yeah, yeah.
So all we can say is thank you for being willing to jump in and you and Jerry to stir the pot and all of these tunes. Now, do you have this year's CD? Did you already get this done, this task from the summer to the new one for this year that you're working, or is that still on
Yes,
you?
I did. But this year was all done with virtual sound, so not real players. Next year's Christmas tape for all my friends and family will be real. It'll be with real instruments next
Oh,
year.
that's
I
marvelous.
believe I'm going to be adding things to the band setting that I usually use. So it'll be band, but it'll also be with banjo and fiddle.
Oh,
And yes, I'm going bluegrass. So we're gonna have that option to break up the CD a bit.
that folk music we were talking about, right? With your
That's
banjos and all.
right. That's
All
right. And,
right.
and I don't know who isn't going to want to hear Silent Night at the Still. I think everybody needs to hear that.
That tops Gotham. That's all I can say. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I look very much forward to our next opportunity, which I hope will be soon, to talk about all the amazing music you create and the chance for Dallas Winds to play it.
Oh, I'm excited. I mean, I consider them to be one of the premier bands on planet Earth. So
Yeah.
to have them play my Christmas music is just, more joy for me. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it.
Okay. Well, this is great. And it's been fun. And we urge everyone who's within, if you can get anywhere nearby and get to that concert, you're going to have an evening you'll never forget. I can tell you that.
I promise it'll be an experience that they have never had before. I promise.
Oh, go. All right. Well, thank you. And if I don't see you before, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.